EarthKAM is a program, one of many educational outreach programs from NASA. This one is run out of the Johnson Space Center and utilizes some of the cameras already installed on the International Space Station. Students and educators are invited to apply online to be a part of that program, where they can request specific photo opportunities based on the forecasted ground track of the space station, and they can request those photos and use them for different research opportunities that the students themselves might be participating in. You can find out more information about the EarthKAM program at www.earthkam.ucsd.edu. They're accepting applications now, and we'll be having a session collecting those photo opportunities coming up in the next couple of weeks. That deadline coming up shortly, and the next photo opportunity session begins April 23rd, running through the 26th. So you're encouraged to participate in that program or spread the word to any teachers and educators in your community. We have Ken Ramsley, a student with Brown University, joining us to talk about the EarthKAM program. Thanks so much, Ken, for joining us.
Hi, Nicole. Glad to be here.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, what you're studying there at Brown University?
I'm a graduate student at Brown. I'm in the Planetary Geosciences group, studying under James Head. My particular interest is something we call natural trajectories, which would be things like impact ejecta from large craters. I'm a mid-career type person, and I'm previous to this, I was a spacecraft systems engineer, and I'm currently also a visiting investigator at Brown, and I teach orbital mechanics and a few other things. So my interest is centered around orbital mechanics and those sorts of things, but applied nowadays to planetary science.
Well, tell us, how did you hear about EarthKAM? You certainly had a diverse background, and you mentioned spacecraft systems. Is it through those channels, or was there a different way that you heard about the program initially?
I heard about the program at Brown. Our coordinator at Brown is Tess Caswell, and she was publicizing the EarthKAM, the program, last fall. So we all heard about it, and it turns out that Commander Dave Scott of Apollo 15 is a visiting professor at Brown, and he was also included in that email. So it's a bit of a convoluted story, but I found out about it because Dave was interested in some images from the EarthKAM system.
Well, tell us a little bit more about that. That's a really unique part of your story, this project
Sure.
that you wanted to pursue. So why don't you walk us through how that evolved?
Sure. Well, it turned out that we specifically asked Dave if there was any part of a mission, a space mission, maybe not just Apollo 15, because of course that was around the moon, and but he was on previous missions, Apollo 9 and Gemini 8, and he had a vivid recollection during his Gemini 8 mission that came to mind, and it turned out that it was an image of an experience passing over the Himalaya mountains. Now, all the spacecraft would pass over the Himalayas quite often, but at this particular time, it was what we would call a sort of a lull between storms. It was during, just prior to reentry, and it was after a rather serious emergency on the Gemini 8 flight. This was the first orbital docking flight, the first mission where a spacecraft would dock with another spacecraft. So an Agena target vehicle had been launched ahead of the Gemini, and the Gemini was launched one orbit later. Rendezvous, docked, no problem, and everything was nominal for about 25 minutes. And it turned out that after about 25 minutes, the combined spacecraft began to pitch and roll slowly. And the command pilot of Gemini 8 was Neil Armstrong. And Neil managed to maintain stability by adding thrust, but they were using up fuel, and they were out of contact with mission control. This was the Gemini program, and there weren't as many ground stations and methods for connecting as there are today. And so the two astronauts worked out that the only solution was to undock to find out whether or not it was the Agena or the Gemini spacecraft that was having problems. And it turned out it was the Gemini spacecraft that had a stuck thruster. And very quickly, within a minute or so, they were spinning up to a rate of about 1 revolution per second, which was extremely dangerous. Neil Armstrong, with one hand, was controlling the Gemini, trying to keep the thing from spinning too fast, and with another hand, he was shutting down the reaction control system, the thruster system that was causing the problem. And he shut the entire system down, and now they're spinning at about 1 revolution per second. And the only way to save the mission at that point was to switch to the system that's used during reentry, the thrusters that are used during reentry. And with that, Neil was able to regain control over the spacecraft. But the mission rules were once that system was turned on, they were required to return to Earth as soon as possible. So it was during the return to Earth after this particular emergency, when everything was all settled, they had fired their retro rockets, they were in the proper orientation for reentry, that Dave Scott was looking out the window watching the Himalayas passing overhead. So you can imagine why perhaps that particular time passing over the Himalayas might be special to him.
That's an amazing story, and it's amazing that you had this opportunity to talk with him and work with him and use EarthKAM to get this, capture this image that was so important, as you said, to him and to that mission.
Yeah, so my involvement was, rather than just taking images of the Himalayas, we thought perhaps we could work out the exact ground track passing over the Himalayas that they saw out the window. And so it turns out that NASA has a terrific historical archive of mission records, debriefing and mission reports and so forth, and that included the orbital information that I needed to figure out exactly what that ground track was. So it turns out that the Gemini spacecraft had to perform 9 maneuvers in order to rendezvous, and that was very complicated to work through. But the target vehicle went into orbit. That established the ground track, and so by tracing that ground track across the Himalayas at the proper time, I was able to use that to select coordinates for the EarthKAM. So this was last fall, and we selected approximately 8 targets, and so far we've received 2 images.
This is fascinating. I was just going to ask how long this whole process took from when you conceived the idea that you wanted to participate in EarthKAM, working with him to identify a possible opportunity. Did that all start in the fall?
That was all in the fall. Yeah, it was probably over the course of a weekend, a little bit of back and forth. Once I understood what the objective was, it was mostly homework on my part. These documents are 500 pages long, and the table of contents alone are 30 pages long. But it's my specialty. I really enjoy orbital mechanics, and I enjoy working through the details. And so providing that simulation was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I was really happy to be able to participate.
So what is the plan now? How do you plan on? Do you have any plans for those images that you've gotten?
We're holding on to them right now. The program, for various reasons, I don't remember at last fall, but it terminated a couple of days early. So we still have about 6 more images to acquire. So we'll be resubmitting those in the next program run. I believe that's at the end of this month. And then when we have that complete series, we'll put together some sort of a composition that shows the entire ground track.
That's wonderful. Do you have any thoughts or advice for other students maybe considering participating in EarthKAM?
I think it's, a lot of people are interested in where they live and their home city or whatever, but there's history, there are things that have happened, there's places that may, if you're interested in volcanoes, or if you're interested in islands of the Pacific or whatever you're interested in, you can figure that out. So I guess my point is that it's not just, pick the first thing that comes to mind, but maybe there's more of a story, more of a personal connection. And I think that makes it a lot more interesting and a lot more satisfying.
Absolutely. Yours sounds like a really unique story attached with this, and hopefully it'll inspire others to take advantage of this really unique opportunity to be part of the space station program and part of the science and research that's being done. So thank you so much for sharing this with us, and we wish you the best with your next EarthKAM request.
Well, thank you very much. Nice talking.